God's dome. So he's a hardcore domer. And all these guys are, all these flat earthers who have the Bible in hand believe in a dome. But he was telling the other individual how to run his channel and what to talk about. That was the tone. So I don't see any bridges being rebuilt. Now, this is resurfaced in my Twitter feed. Event 201. Each participant was gifted one of these from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It was the little plush COVID doll, these little COVID plush dolls that were handed out before the virus broke out. Anyway, I've been trying to get my hands on one, and there are people putting them on eBay for $4,800. Let's see, I'm going through comments. Victoria says the vape deaths were fresh from Fort Detrick. Yeah, there were a lot of vape deaths, and I think they were banning vapes all over the place. I think there was like an epidemic, and then it got swept aside. And to me, that was kind of a precursor. I mean, one of the main themes of 2020 was I can't breathe. That was like a repeated meme. You had the COVID, the stealing of breath, the ventilators, the mask. Then you had the police oppression, Derek Chauvin, I can't breathe. Then you had the climate change brought up as we're destroying our atmosphere, we're not going to be able to breathe because all the capitalism. Just a repeated theme. But it really started, I think, a little bit before with that. And the media does monolithically communicate in themes. They shape the zeitgeist. Here's a short clip, Bill Gates. And I watched this morning twice. I didn't have the volume on. I've been noticing that Bill Gates's body language is very, very awkward. And the way that he moves his hands and his arms bears no relation to the words that he's saying. It's almost like
better forecast of what would happen.
Almost like he's swimming. But here he is talking about, well, I'll let him say it. He says, what if a bioterrorist brought smallpox to 10 different airports? So here he is, like on the fly, just kind of dreaming up some really bad catastrophic events. Classic evil villain. Duper's delight, bragging, I think. Take a listen.
Of that. It'll take probably about $1 billion a year for a pandemic task force at the WHO level, which is doing the surveillance and actually doing what I call germ games, where you practice. You say, okay, what if a bioterrorist brought smallpox to 10 airports?
Okay, so he said we need to do germ games and practice. What if a bioterrorist brought smallpox to 10 airports? Well, what's a germ game? Just a war game, a drill. And what is a drill? Well, they say a drill is something they do to make sure that all the relevant agencies are prepared to handle this or that catastrophe. However, in my experience and from my observation, drill is just a code for saying rehearsal. That it's all about just rehearsing. It's practice. It's getting assets into place. That's what it looks like to me. So just a heads up, they're going to do something along the lines of what Bill Gates just said. Okay, I'm going through my Twitter feed, and it does seem to be trending right now about Mac Parhar. We'll continue to cover that. Yep, Bill Gates warns of smallpox terror attacks and says we need to do germ games to prepare. Kevin Mooring 73 sent me this. Meteor strike. This is an instant attack to destroy any place. This is from the Illuminati cards. And William Shatner said when he was up in space, he was acutely aware of the damage that could be done by the catastrophic event that's coming. William Shatner. He said it. There's a catastrophic event coming. So just a heads up there. If you're looking at the screen, you see Richie from Boston levitating. Someone memed that, and that's because he alleges that he levitated one night while he was under attack by electronic warfare, and he was then saved by the full armor of God. But he did claim that he was levitating, and somebody artistically rendered that image for you. Ooh, fascinating. Commenter says germ games, like Squid Games. Right. I watched Squid Games start to finish. Very, very interesting. Disturbing, violent, what you would expect. Just part of my job here, though. I mean, I think it's important to research what is being inserted into the mass mind, what the world stage is seeing. And that one was viewed by something like 110 million people in one day or something. So, germ games. Victoria says they're just psyoping the climate. Oh, they always have been. I actually think climate change is a modern flood myth based on Noah's myth, and they just replaced wickedness in one sense with wickedness in a new sense. And this sense is carbon footprint. I had a poll on this morning's replay. Who is the Illuminati agent? Russian vids or high impact flicks? And 78% of those polled said it would be Russian vids. Kind of an informal, but I polled people who would know. Okay, let's continue. Now, yeah, climate change is a fundamental hoax to understand, and I actually think it's a great starting point to get people to recognize that, yeah, there is an agenda here of politicizing the weather, and ultimately it's just a stalking horse because they're using environmentalism to advance communism, to attack capitalism. It's as simple as that, always has been. But what's very clever here is even those who can see climate change as the hoax that it is and the purpose behind it, and by the way, they're going to criminalize or ban you from even criticizing global warming, their angry God myth. But people who believe in or who understand that this thing could be fake still fall for the space program and think it's 100% real. Well, if you really get into what the space program is about, and I follow it very closely, it's building this utopia above, out there. And this type of utopianism is nothing more than the Marxist workers' paradise for the modern age. And they're creating a utopian, sustainable society. It's green. It's basically space communism. So anyway, you have people who see through global warming, but they fall for the Mars program, for the space program. Okay, this is an article from Newsweek. QAnon followers question whether the Rolling Stones guitarist Keith Richards is in fact John F. Kennedy. Okay, see, I thought so. The other newspaper got it wrong. They thought that JFK was Keith Richards. Says this prophecy, which is considered extreme by some other members of the movement, posits that JFK Jr. faked his death in a plane crash and would return to be Trump's vice president to usher in a new era of American prosperity. On Tuesday, they arrived at the site of JFK's assassination, expecting to see him. After they failed to appear at Dealey Plaza, QAnon followers moved the goalposts again. Numerous accounts across Telegram, seen by Newsweek, claimed that they would be revealing themselves at the Rolling Stones concert. Now here's a tweet. Inside the Cotton Bowl Stadium, some were convinced that Richards, the Rolling Stone guitarist born in southeast England in 1943, was in fact the 35th President of the United States. All caps commenter says, whether you like it or not, JFK Sr. was there, Keith Richards. Another Telegram user wrote, yeah, Keith Richards is totally JFK Sr., and the whole event is coded for the arrival of JFK. Other accounts questioned whether or who else was on stage. Someone else says not the same person. But anyway, here you have it. Apparently, some of them do believe that JFK is Keith Richards. Unbelievable, but we're going to follow this thing to its conclusion. Darren Moss says, the Dallas JFK running mate Q-Nuts have it wrong. It's going to be Tupac. Right, but there's nothing foolish or even wrong about suggesting that Tupac's still alive. That's a an easy death hoax to unpack. And they actually put out some false leads that they promote. You'll see TMZ and other, like The Sun, they'll promote certain Tupac conspiracy theories where, oh, he ran off to Cuba. He's hiding because he was real and he was being hunted down by his enemies. They have all these other stories, but the one that's most logical is that he actually didn't die, but he's under a different identity, performing similar music as a part of a group of rappers, which would include Biggie Small. So you have all these death faker rappers repackaged as another group led by Tupac, but now known as, let me bring this up. Now, this is just a theory, but the theory is Jurassic 5 hip hop group is in fact led by Akil the MC, who is Tupac, and I believe Kali Tuna is another person who was associated with Tupac. We can go through all of these at some later point, but my point is Akil the MC is believed by many to actually be Tupac. And you know, I've looked at this one very closely, and if I had to bet on it, I would say yes, solely based on the teeth. I mean, the teeth and the eyebrows, but specifically the teeth. And it fits a broader pattern. Okay, let's see here. NA Literalist says the Mars Utopia will be built from the blood of bricks of the chosen ones for Mars. Yeah, the blood to bricks. Astrocrete. Astrocrete is what NASA's going to use to build bricks on Mars and the Moon. It's when they mix your blood with the lunar or Martian soil. Commenter says Jurassic because they are extinct rappers. Yeah, that's pretty much what I took out of it. Akil the MC is probably a reference to, you know, Kill the MC. Like Machiavelli, the album had all kinds of clues about this, about, you know, these death fakers are always foreshadowing their own passing. Okay, so we'll do a follow-up tomorrow morning on the story of Mac Parhar and whether or not that's a real event or not. I don't make any apologies for our investigation. The fact that he was taking ivermectin to me is almost damning in terms of, is it a psyop? Because it seems like there's an agenda to attack free speech and people like Joe Rogan. And now Joe Rogan is a threat to society because Joe Rogan just killed Mac Parhar. That's how they will interpret this. And they'll say, this is why we can't have unapproved voices promulgating certain opinions. By the way, I had been blocked on Twitter by Russian vids. Just pointing that out. And you can't block anybody on Twitter that doesn't want to be blocked. So it's just a token gesture of saying that I can't handle criticism. I think that Kyle Rittenhouse is going to be exonerated, by the way. I also find it weird that the FBI had a bunch of footage they weren't sharing, drone footage. So they know who did what. But I think they're going to let Kyle out. And they did so much damage in advance by suggesting that he was a mass murderer and by painting a different picture so that now when he's let out, it's going to look like an injustice. Man, I saw this joke somewhere. I hope I can remember it. I think it was a pedo, a burglar, and a domestic abuser walk into a bar in Kenosha. Kyle Rittenhouse turns around and says, hey guys, you want a shot? Because that's kind of what happened. You know, he went in there and he took out 3 of the least likely people to be shot, I think, out of that mob. You happen to get some people that are just unsavory. I mean, Rosenbaum, you're going to make a martyr out of that guy? No way. The best we can do is joke about a guy who, at least he died doing something he loved, chasing a minor. Like, I have no sympathy. But Gruber was friends with Jacob Blake. I find that kind of hoaxy. And again, he's an example of why you shouldn't bring a skateboard to a gunfight. I suspect Death Faker. For me, I'm not going to even believe it's real. I think it could be easily just movie magic. I won't believe it's real unless I see Gage Grossarm take that sleeve off. I want to see if he's indeed missing a third of his bicep or if that was just a squib. It looked very squibby, if you ask me. And the way squibs work is you have a fake gun, you pull a trigger, and it causes a little explosive charge or something on someone's body to squirt out blood and debris. Okay, anyway, this has been great fun. Unfortunately, it's a sad topic when someone dies like this, from this. But I think the spectacle of it is almost too much for me to believe. Like, I'm so skeptical at this point. Maybe I'm too skeptical. But I'll make all the necessary corrections if I'm wrong about any of the things that I have asserted tonight. If Richie from Boston isn't in the Illuminati, I'm truly sorry. But you have a 33 on the back of your Jeep. I mean, what are we supposed to think? And those are your own standards. It's like if you put it out there as a standard that this person is unequivocally part of the dark side because of his license plate. If that's your standard, you have to be held to the same standard. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that proposition. If you want to join our Discord server, go to infiniteplane.radio. I highly recommend it because when we're not live, we're always doing research, and everything that we've discussed tonight has pretty much been part of a pooled collection of research. All of these different topics are being researched concurrently at our server, and I found out from people close to Mac Parhar that he was high on the horse paste before I heard it from the media. So anyway, this is Chief Crow and the Flat Earthworms, COVID-1984. Have a great night.
Or deceit. Shut up, shut the door. Government media bent you over like a whore. COVID-1984, 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 COVID-1984. 33 puzzle, face mask muzzle. Going to my grandma's house. Shut in, shut up, cover your mouth.